The autumn rain hammered against the windows of the Collins family home in suburban Philadelphia. Inside, 23-year-old Marcus stood in the living room, his duffel bag at his feet, facing his father's red, furious face. "You're a disappointment," Richard Collins shouted, his voice echoing through the house. "All we've done for you, and this is how you repay us? You can't even hold down a job." Marcus's mother, Patricia, stood by the staircase, arms crossed, her silence somehow louder than his father's screaming. "Dad, I'm trying to," Marcus began, but his father cut him off. "Trying? Trying? You've been trying for 3 years. You move back home, eat our food, use our electricity, our internet, and what do we get? A son who sleeps until noon and can't keep a job for more than 6 months." The words stung because some of them were true. Marcus had struggled since graduating college. His degree in graphic design hadn't opened the doors he'd hoped for. The gig economy was brutal, and every freelance project felt like starting from zero. "Richard, maybe we should," Patricia started. "No." Richard's hand sliced through the air. I'm done. I'm done enabling this laziness." Marcus felt something crack inside him. Not break, crack. Like ice on a frozen lake, the first sign that everything was about to give way. "I work, Dad. I've been doing freelance." "Freelance?" Richard laughed bitterly. "That's not a real job, Marcus. That's what people call unemployment when they're too proud to admit they failed. If you're watching this from your hometown, drop a comment below telling us where you're from. Let's build a community together. ****. The Philadelphia rain turned to sleet, tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. Marcus looked around the living room, the leather couch where he'd watched Sunday football with his dad as a kid, the piano his mom had insisted he learn, the family photos on the mantel showing happier times. "You know what?" Marcus said quietly, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "You're right." Richard blinked, surprised. "What?" "You're right. I've been stuck. I've been scared. I've been taking the easy way by staying here." Marcus reached down and grabbed his duffel bag. "But I'm done now, too." "What are you doing?" Patricia asked, stepping forward. "I'm leaving." "Marcus, don't be dramatic," she said, but there was uncertainty in her voice. "Get out then," Richard roared, his face purple. "Go. And don't come back until you've figured out how to be a man. Don't come crawling back when reality hits you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't believe what happens next." Marcus zipped up his jacket, slinging his bag over his shoulder. He walked to the door, hand on the knob, and turned back one last time. His mother's eyes were wet, but she didn't move. His father stood rigid, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "Goodbye," Marcus said simply. He walked out into the October sleet. Marcus's best friend, David Chen, lived in a cramped studio apartment in Center City. When Marcus showed up soaking wet at 9 p.m., David didn't ask questions. He just handed him a towel and made space on the couch. "You can stay as long as you need, bro," David said, heating up leftover Chinese food. "What happened?" Marcus told him everything while the radiator clanked and hissed in the corner. "Man, that's rough," David said, shaking his head. "But maybe this is your wake-up call?" "What do you mean?" "You've been playing it safe, Marcus. I love you, but you've been coasting. Remember sophomore year, when you designed that whole campaign for the student union? You were on fire. What happened to that guy?" Marcus stared at the container of lo mein in his hands. "That guy got rejected from 43 job applications." "So?" "I got rejected from 67 before I landed my first dev job." David leaned forward. "The difference is I kept going. You went home. And there's no shame in that, but maybe your dad did you a favor. A really messed up, terrible favor." "What do you think? Did Marcus's father do the right thing, or did he go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. ****. That night, lying on David's lumpy couch while sirens wailed outside, Marcus made a decision. He pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. His parents had been depositing $800 a month into his account for the past year. "To help you get on your feet," they'd said. He'd been using it to supplement his irregular freelance income, telling himself it was temporary. Marcus looked at the transfer history. Nearly $10,000 over the last 12 months. His stomach twisted with shame and anger, and something else, determination. He opened his contacts and stared at his father's number for a long time. Then he put the phone down without calling. Tomorrow, he decided. Tomorrow, everything changes. The next morning, Marcus woke up at 6 a.m., earlier than he'd woken up in months. David was already gone for his job at a tech startup. The studio apartment was silent except for the sound of delivery trucks rumbling on the street below. Marcus opened his laptop and looked at his portfolio website. It was outdated, half-finished, embarrassing. His most recent project was from 8 months ago. He spent the next 12 hours rebuilding it. Around 2 p.m., his phone rang.
Mom.
He didn't answer. At 6 p.m., it rang again.
Dad.
He didn't answer. At 9 p.m., he got a text from his mother. Asterisk, please call us. We need to talk. Asterisk. Marcus turned off his phone and kept working. If you're enjoying this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true-to-life narratives. 3 days passed. Marcus lived on ramen, coffee, and determination. He redesigned his entire portfolio, reaching out to every contact he'd ever made, every classmate, every former colleague. He applied to 15 jobs in 3 days. Not the safe, easy applications he'd been sending before, but real, ambitious positions at agencies and studios. On the 4th day, David came home to find Marcus hunched over his laptop, eyes red but burning with focus. "Dude, have you slept?" David asked. "I got a response," Marcus said, turning the screen toward him. "Keller and Associates. They want an interview. It's a junior designer position, but it's a real agency, David. A real job." David grinned.
See?
"I told you. The interview's in 2 days. I need a suit. You left your suit at your parents' house."
Yeah.
"You gonna call them?" Marcus shook his head. "I'll figure something out." On day 7, exactly 1 week since he'd walked out, Marcus's phone rang with an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Hello? Marcus? It's me." His mother's voice was tight, strained. "Mom, we need to talk about something. Your father and we tried to use the card today. For groceries. It was declined." Marcus's heart began to pound. He knew exactly what card she was talking about, the credit card they'd given him 2 years ago. Their credit card with their account that he was authorized to use for emergencies and essentials. The card he'd been using to buy groceries, gas, supplies. The card that had, in many ways, kept him afloat. "Marcus? Are you there?" "I'm here. Don't go anywhere. This is where everything changes. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next chapter. Asterisk, asterisk. Why isn't the card working? Your father called the bank, and they said the account was frozen. Marcus, did you do something?" Marcus took a deep breath.
No, Mom.
"I didn't freeze anything." "Then what happened? We've been trying to reach you all week. You can't just disappear and—" "Mom," Marcus interrupted, his voice calm but firm. "When did you last check the account balance?" There was a pause. What does that have to? When did you last check it?" Your father handles the finances." "Marcus, what's going on?" "The account isn't frozen," Marcus said. "There's just no money in it." Another pause, longer this time. "What are you talking about?" "That's our primary account. There's always—"
No, Mom.
"There was always money." Past tense. He could hear his mother's breathing, quick and shallow. "Marcus, you're scaring me. What did you do?" And that's when Marcus said the words that would change everything. "I paid you back." End of chapter 1. What do you think Marcus did? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button now. Chapter 2 is going to blow your mind. Asterisk, asterisk. Hashtag chapter 2, The Reckoning. The silence on the phone stretched for what felt like an eternity. Marcus stood by the window of David's studio apartment, watching the evening traffic crawl along Market Street, 7 stories below. What do you mean you paid us back?" Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. Exactly what I said, Mom. I paid you back. Every dollar. Marcus, I don't understand. Paid us back for what? Marcus closed his eyes. This was the moment. The moment he'd been rehearsing in his head for days, lying awake on David's couch, staring at the water-stained ceiling. For the past year, you and Dad have been depositing $800 a month into my account. That's $9,600. Before that, for the 6 months after I moved back home, you were putting in $500 a month. That's another $3,000. Then there's the credit card I was authorized on. I calculated every charge I made over the past 2 years. Groceries, gas, supplies, that emergency car repair. Another $4,700. Marcus. I'm not finished. His voice was steady now, almost detached. There's also the rent I didn't pay while living at home. Market rate for a room in our neighborhood is about $800 a month. I was there for 26 months. That's $20,800. And utilities, food, internet, I estimated conservatively at $200 a month. Another $5,200. What would you do in Marcus's situation? Let us know in the comments below. ***. He could hear his mother breathing heavily on the other end. That's $43,300, Mom. I transferred every penny I had, my entire savings from freelance work over the past 3 years, back into your account. It was $8,847. Then I took out a personal loan for the remaining $34,453. The payment plan is aggressive, but I'll manage. Oh my God, Patricia whispered. Marcus, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. His voice cracked slightly. Dad made it very clear. I was a freeloader, a disappointment, a failure who was taking advantage of you. So I fixed it. I paid my debt. That's not. Your father was angry, he didn't mean? He meant every word, Mom. And maybe he was right. Maybe I was taking advantage. But not anymore. Marcus, please, you took out a loan? Do you understand what that means? The interest alone. I understand perfectly. Marcus opened his eyes, looking at his reflection in the window. He barely recognized himself. 7 days ago, he'd been a scared kid. Now, he saw something different. I'm an adult, Mom. Adults pay their own way. There was a commotion on the other end of the line, muffled voices, and then his father's voice came through, sharp and demanding. What the hell did you do? Richard Collins barked. There's $43,000 sitting in our account. What kind of stunt is this? It's not a stunt, Dad. It's payment. For services rendered. Room and board. Family support. I believe those are the standard terms. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're Team Marcus. Don't you dare get smart with me. You took out a loan? Are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea what you've done to your credit? Your future. My future? Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. You told me I didn't have a future. You told me to get out and not come back until I figured out how to be a man. Well, Dad, here's what a man does. He pays his debts. This is ridiculous. We're your parents. That money was a gift. You sure about that? Marcus's voice dropped, cold and precise. Because a week ago, it sounded a lot like you were keeping a running tab. All we've done for you, you said. This is how you repay us, you said. So I'm repaying you, in full, with interest calculated at 3% annually. Richard was sputtering now. You self-righteous little. This is emotional blackmail.
No, Dad.
This is closure. Patricia must have taken the phone back because her voice returned, thick with tears. Please, Marcus, come home.
We can talk about this.
Your father is sorry, aren't you, Richard? Tell him. Marcus heard his father's voice in the background, but couldn't make out the words. They sounded angry, defensive, not apologetic. I can't come home, Mom. Why not? We're your family. Because, Marcus said softly, I don't think I ever really left home. Not in my heart. And that was the problem. I was 23 years old, still living like I was 18, still letting you take care of me, still afraid to really be on my own. Dad kicking me out was the best thing that ever happened to me. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see how this story ends. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. Marcus, please. I have a job interview tomorrow, Mom. A real one. And whether I get it or not, I'm going to be okay. Because for the first time in 3 years, I'm actually trying. Really trying. Not just going through the motions. David came home an hour later to find Marcus sitting on the floor, back against the couch, staring at nothing. You okay? David asked, setting down a bag of groceries. I just told my parents I took out a $34,000 loan to pay them back for raising me. David froze halfway to the kitchen. You did what? Marcus explained everything. When he finished, David sat down next to him on the floor, both of them staring at the opposite wall. Dude, David finally said, that's either the most badass thing I've ever heard or the most insane thing I've ever heard. Maybe both. Can you actually afford that loan? If I get this job tomorrow, barely. If I don't, Marcus shrugged. I'll figure it out. I'll get 2 jobs. 3 jobs. I'll deliver pizzas at night. I don't care. I'm not going back. David nodded slowly. You know what? I believe you. This is the Marcus I remember from college. The guy who pulled 3 all-nighters to finish that senior project because you refused to settle for anything less than perfect. That project got me a B+. Yeah, but it was awesome. You just gave up after graduation. I never understood why. Marcus thought about it. Fear, I guess. Fear of failure. Fear of disappointing people. Fear of being exactly what my dad said I was. And now I'm terrified. But it's a different kind of terrified. It's the good kind. The kind that makes you move forward instead of freezing up. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story has reached. ****. The next morning, Marcus put on David's suit. They were close enough in size that it almost fit. He took the subway to the offices of Keller and Associates, a mid-sized marketing and design firm in Rittenhouse Square. The interview was with Jennifer Keller herself, the founder, and her creative director, a sharp-eyed woman named Simone Torres. Your portfolio is impressive, Jennifer said, scrolling through Marcus's laptop. This recent redesign, when did you do this? Last week. Last week. Simone leaned forward. The whole site. Yes, ma'am. Why this sudden overhaul? Jennifer asked, her eyes curious. Marcus hesitated. He could lie, give some professional answer about staying current or seizing opportunities. But something about these 2 women made him want to tell the truth. I got kicked out of my parents' house, he said. And I realized I'd been coasting, playing it safe. I needed to prove to myself that I could actually do this, that I wasn't just treading water. Jennifer and Simone exchanged a glance. Tell us more, Simone said. So Marcus did. Not everything. He kept the loan and the payment private, but he told them about the fight, about staying on his friend's couch, about the wake-up call. When he finished, Jennifer sat back in her chair. You know what I respect about that?
What?
Honesty. And humility. Do you know how many candidates sit in that chair and act like they've got everything figured out? Like they're God's gift to design. She smiled. The truth is, some of our best people are the ones who've struggled, who've faced failure, and had to claw their way back. If you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button. We post content like this every week. ****. Simone nodded. We're not just hiring skills, Marcus. We're hiring character. The skills we can teach. Character? That's something you either have or you don't. The interview lasted another 45 minutes. They asked about his design philosophy, his process, his familiarity with various software. Marcus answered each question with the focus and passion he'd forgotten he had. When it was over, Jennifer walked him to the door. We have 3 more candidates to interview, she said. But between you and me,
I think we've found our guy.
Expect a call by Friday. Marcus left the building and stood on the sidewalk, letting the cold November air fill his lungs. He wanted to call someone, to share the moment, but his usual first call, his mom, felt impossible right now. So he texted David, I think I got it. 3 dots appeared immediately. Asterisk, dude. Celebration dinner on me. Asterisk. That evening, Marcus's phone rang. Mom again. He stared at it for a long moment, then answered. Hi, Mom. Marcus. Her voice was different, calmer, more composed. Your father, and I want to talk to you. Really talk. Can you come over this weekend? I don't know if that's a good idea.
Please.
I need to say some things. And your father does too. Marcus closed his eyes. Did he ask you to call?
No.
But he's listening. And he needs to hear this as much as you do. Hear what? Patricia took a deep breath. That I'm sorry. That we're sorry. That we handled everything wrong. That we should have. Her voice broke. That we should have believed in you more. What do you think Marcus should do? Should he give his parents another chance? Let us know in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Mom, let me finish.
Please.
When you were growing up, you were such a confident kid. Creative, driven, always making things. And then after college, something changed. You got quiet, unsure. And instead of asking why, instead of trying to understand what you were going through, we pushed. Your father especially. He thought tough love was the answer. He thought if he just pushed hard enough, you'd snap out of it. It wasn't his job to fix me, Mom.
No.
But it was our job to support you. And we failed. We made you feel like our love was conditional. Like you had to earn our approval. And Marcus, that was never. She was crying now. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry we made you feel like you weren't enough. Marcus sat down on David's couch, his vision blurring. And this loan you took out, Patricia continued. When we saw the amount, when we realized what you'd calculated, do you know what your father said? What? He said, he actually kept track of everything, like we were strangers. And I think that's when it hit him, Marcus. That's when he realized what his words had done. Is he there? Can I talk to him? There was a pause, some muffled conversation, and then Richard's voice came through, rough and uncertain. Son. Dad. Richard cleared his throat. I was wrong. About a lot of things.
But mostly about you.
You're not a failure. You never were. And I should have told you that 3 years ago instead of what I said. Marcus couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down his face. This money you sent, Richard continued. We're not keeping it. We already spoke to the bank. We're transferring it back to you, and we're paying off your loan. All of it. Dad, no.
Yes.
Because that's what parents do. We support our kids. Even when we're angry. Even when we're disappointed. Even when we don't understand their choices. And I forgot that. I forgot that being a father means loving you unconditionally, not transactionally. Make sure you're subscribed. Chapter 3 is going to bring this incredible journey to a close. I can't let you do that, Marcus said, wiping his eyes. I took that loan out because I needed to prove something. To myself. I need to pay it back myself. Marcus.
Dad, please.
Let me do this. Let me prove that I can.
You can keep the money I sent. Donate it.
Save it. I don't care. But the loan is my responsibility. I need to carry it. I need to know I can. There was a long silence. Okay, Richard finally said, his voice thick.
Okay.
But if you ever need help, if you ever get in trouble, I'll call. I promise. Will you come home this weekend?
Just to talk.
Just to be a family again. Marcus looked around David's tiny studio apartment, the couch that was too short for his legs, the single window that faced a brick wall, the space that had become his sanctuary, and his launching pad. Yeah, he said. I'll come home. End of chapter 2. This story isn't over yet. Subscribe now so you don't miss the final chapter. And if you're enjoying this, hit that like button and tell us, what would you have done in Marcus's situation? Comment below. Asterisk, asterisk. Friday morning, Marcus got the call from Jennifer Keller. When can you start? She asked without preamble. Marcus almost dropped his phone. I got it. You got it. And Simone is already planning your first project. Can you start Monday?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Miss Keller. I won't let you down. I know you won't. And Marcus? Call me Jennifer. We're not that formal here. After he hung up, Marcus stood in the middle of David's apartment and let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. David emerged from the bathroom, toothbrush in hand. You got it. I got it. David whooped and pulled Marcus into a hug, both of them jumping like idiots in a tiny space. If you're as excited as we are, smash that like button and subscribe. We love sharing these real-life journeys with you. Asterisk, asterisk. That evening, Marcus took the SEPTA Regional Rail out to his parents' house in the suburbs. The autumn had deepened into early winter. The trees were bare, and the first frost glittered on the lawns. He stood on the sidewalk outside the house where he'd grown up, the house he'd left in anger and rain just 2 weeks ago. It felt like a lifetime. The front door opened before he could knock. His mother stood there, wrapped in a cardigan, her eyes red-rimmed but warm. Hi, baby, she said. Hi, Mom. She pulled him into a hug, and Marcus let himself melt into it. The familiar smell of her perfume, the softness of her shoulder, the safety he'd taken for granted for so long. When they pulled apart, his father was standing in the hallway, hands in his pockets, looking older somehow. Marcus, he said. Dad. They stood there for an awkward moment, and then Richard stepped forward and extended his hand. Marcus looked at it, then bypassed it entirely and hugged his father. Richard stiffened in surprise, then hugged him back, hard. I'm sorry, Richard whispered. God, I'm so sorry. Me too, Dad. They sat in the living room, the same living room where Richard had shouted at Marcus to leave, and talked. Really talked. For hours. Marcus told them about the job, about the interview, about the terrifying and exhilarating 2 weeks he'd spent on David's couch. Patricia listened with her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Richard sat rigid, jaw clenched, but his eyes were wet. When you calculated everything, Patricia said, down to the utilities and the groceries. Marcus, did you really think we were keeping score? I don't know what I thought, Mom. I was hurt and angry, and I needed to prove something. That I wasn't a leech. That I could make it on my own. And you have, Richard said quietly. You got a job at a real agency. In 2 weeks. Do you know how impressive that is? It's a junior position, Dad. The pay is decent, but not great. It's a start. And it's yours. You earned it. Richard leaned forward. Marcus, I need you to understand something. When I told you to leave, I wasn't thinking about what you needed. I was thinking about me. About my frustration. About my own father, who never let me live at home past 18, who told me I was weak if I couldn't make it on my own. Comment below, do you think parents should push their kids out of the nest, or let them stay as long as they need? We want to hear your perspective. Asterisk, asterisk. I was repeating a cycle, Richard continued, without stopping to think about whether it was right. Your mother tried to tell me, but I wouldn't listen. I thought I was teaching you responsibility, but all I was teaching you was that my love had conditions. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because you need to hear it. And I need to say it. Richard looked him in the eye. I love you, Marcus. Unconditionally. Whether you're a junior designer or CEO. Whether you live in a studio apartment or a mansion. Whether you're struggling or thriving. That's never going to change. And I should have made that clear a long time ago. Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Patricia reached over and squeezed his hand. We've already called the bank about the loan. We can pay it off today if you'll let us. Mom, I told you. I know what you told us. But Marcus, that interest rate is criminal. Let us pay off the principal, and you can pay us back over time, no interest. Please. Let us do this. Marcus wanted to refuse, wanted to insist on doing it alone. But as he looked at his parents' faces, his mother's pleading eyes, his father's quiet desperation to make things right, he realized that letting them help wasn't weakness. It was family. Okay, he said, but I'm paying you back. Every penny. And I'm putting it in writing. Deal, Richard said, the ghost of a smile on his face. Over the next few weeks, Marcus settled into his new life. He found a studio apartment of his own, smaller than David's, but his. He started at Keller and Associates and threw himself into the work with an intensity that surprised even him. Jennifer noticed. "You're doing great," she told him after his first month. "Simone says you're a natural.
Hungry.
Focused. We made the right call." "Thank you. I'm just trying to prove I belong here." "Marcus, you already proved that. Now, just enjoy it." But enjoying it was harder than proving it. Marcus realized that years of self-doubt didn't evaporate overnight. There were still moments when he looked at his work and saw failure. Still nights when he lay awake worrying that he'd been hired out of pity, not merit. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of personal growth and transformation. He started seeing a therapist, Dr. Laura Rothstein, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had an office in Old City. She helped him unpack the years of pressure and expectation, the perfectionism that had paralyzed him after graduation. "You were so afraid of failing that you stopped trying," Dr. Rothstein told him during one session. "And when you stopped trying, you fulfilled your own prophecy. You became exactly what you feared. So, what do I do? You're already doing it. You're trying again. And more importantly, you're letting yourself be imperfect. That's the key, Marcus. Not perfection. Progress. Progress." Marcus liked that word. In January, 3 months after leaving home, Marcus went back to Philadelphia suburbs for his parents' anniversary dinner. He brought a bottle of wine and a framed print of a design he'd created for Keller and Associates, a cityscape of Philadelphia at sunset, every line and color carefully chosen. "This is beautiful," Patricia said, holding it up to the light. "It's for you guys. As a thank you." "For what?" Richard asked. "For letting me go. And for welcoming me back." They hung it in the living room, right above the piano. After dinner, Marcus and his father stood on the back porch, watching the snow fall in the yard. "You know," Richard said, "when you sent that money back, I was furious. I felt like you were punishing us. Showing us up. I wasn't trying to. I know. Now I know. But in that moment, all I could think was that my son hated me enough to calculate our relationship in dollars and cents." Richard took a sip of his coffee. "But then your mother pointed something out." "What?" "She said you kept track of everything because you didn't want to owe us anything you couldn't repay. She said it wasn't about punishing us, it was about respecting us. About refusing to take us for granted." Marcus hadn't thought of it that way. "Maybe. She also said," Richard continued, a slight smile on his face, "that only someone who truly loved his parents would care enough to calculate it all so precisely. Because if you didn't care, you would have just walked away and never looked back." What do you think? Was Marcus's approach the right one? Drop your opinion in the comments. ****. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the snow accumulate on the lawn furniture. "I'm proud of you, Marcus," Richard said quietly. "Not because you got a job or an apartment, but because you figured out who you wanted to be, and you became that person. That takes courage." "Thanks, Dad. And for what it's worth, the loan is paid off. We transferred the money this morning." "Before you argue," Richard held up his hand. "It's done. But we're keeping a tab and you're going to pay us back. At your pace. No interest. No pressure. Deal?" Marcus smiled.
"Deal."
By spring, Marcus had been promoted to mid-level designer. His work was being featured in the agency's portfolio. Clients requested him, specifically. He'd even started teaching a weekend workshop at a community college, Introduction to Digital Design, sharing what he'd learned with students who reminded him of himself just a year ago. David came to one of his classes and sat in the back, grinning like an idiot. "You're a natural," David said afterward. "You should do this more. It's just a side thing. Dude, you were glowing up there. I've never seen you so in your element." Maybe David was right. Because when Marcus was teaching, showing some nervous 19-year-old how to use layers in Photoshop or explaining the principles of color theory, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Before the story ends, make sure you're subscribed. We share incredible real-life stories like this one every week. ****. One Saturday in April, Marcus met his parents for lunch at a cafe in Rittenhouse Square. As they sat outside, enjoying the first warm day of spring, Patricia pulled out an envelope. "What's this?" Marcus asked. "Open it." Inside was a check for $43,300, the exact amount he'd calculated and sent them 6 months ago. "Mom, Dad, we talked about this." "Just listen," Richard said. "We didn't spend that money. Not a dollar. We put it in an investment account. And this check represents the principal plus the interest it earned." "I don't understand." "We want you to have it," Patricia said. "For your future. For emergencies. For whatever you need. Because, Marcus, you proved your point. You proved you could make it on your own. You proved you're not a freeloader or a failure. You proved you're a man." "Mom. And now we want to prove something to you," Richard said. "That we believe in you. That we trust you. That our support isn't about controlling you, it's about loving you." Marcus looked at the check, at his parents, at the spring sun filtering through the cafe's awning. He thought about the angry kid who'd left home in the rain. About the scared kid who'd taken out a loan he could barely afford.